More bad news for Mercedes after the Brazilian GP. Mercedes experienced a disappointing Brazilian Grand Prix at the location of its most recent Formula One triumph, following a series of very promising races and, in general, a positive atmosphere in Brackley. Hamilton's absolute bashing of a car was supported this time by Toto Wolff, and just when we thought that the Silver Arrows might be heading in the right direction, it's all back to the drawing board for a team that fluctuated a lot this year, but thanks to its rivals, it keeps the number 2 spot in the constructors' standings and is fighting for P2 in the drivers' one. What does this mean for their 2024 plan? And is this a major setback? The rigorous preliminary examination of Mercedes' bad performance at the Brazilian Grand Prix has abruptly stopped the recently growing optimism about its recent progress, which was evident in my opinion. After showing considerable improvement following a significant upgrade, which was seen as a harbinger for the 2024 season, Mercedes' progress came to a stop during the challenging race days at Interlagos, resulting in their poorest weekend of the season. Team principal Toto Wolff dismissed the performance as not reflective of their true potential, especially after securing second-place finishes in the 2 preceding races, only to fall to 8th place and a full minute behind the winner Max Verstappen in Brazil. Lewis Hamilton mid-weekend could only take solace in the fact that there were just a few races left for the current car, expressing eagerness to move on from it, and this frustration signified a stark shift from the previously positive weeks, and the gloomy atmosphere lingered even 24 hours later following a lackluster race day. The car's instability, particularly due to a weak rear end that caused excessive sliding and tyre wear, was apparent during the sprint but remained unaddressed, leading to an even more dismal performance in Sunday's main race. Mercedes stated that the issues came primarily from the car's setup, a notion later confirmed by Wolff, who acknowledged that the ride height was set too high as a precaution after a disqualification for excessive plank wear at Aston. However, he also noted that this was not the sole reason for the team's starkly subpar performance throughout the weekend. We ran the car way too high, but that wasn't the main reason for an absolute off weekend in terms of performance, added Wolff. There's something fundamentally wrong mechanically. It's not a rear wing and it's not the car being slightly too high, because we're talking a millimeter or two. That is performance, but that isn't the explanation for a total off. Mercedes was left in the dark about the exact issue plaguing their performance by the end of Sunday at the Brazilian Grand Prix, and despite contemplating a pit lane start to facilitate drastic setup changes, which are restricted by park firm rules without incurring penalties, Wolff confessed that the team was at a loss about what adjustments to make. Consequently, the race on Sunday proved to be a prolonged and tough ordeal, providing little to no returns as both Hamilton and George Russell lost ground due to a lack of speed and significant tyre wear. Hamilton's 8th place finish, over a minute behind Verstappen, marked Mercedes' most substantial race day gap of the year. Moreover, if we are being honest, even this 8th position was more than what Mercedes' performance warranted. Hamilton's standing benefited from Charles Leclerc's formation lap issue and the misfortune of Daniel Ricciardo and Oscar Piastri, who were both inadvertently caught up in a first corner collision and finished a lap down, and if not for these incidents, Hamilton likely wouldn't have made the top 10. To worsen matters, Russell was forced to retire from the race due to the threat of an imminent engine failure caused by rising oil temperatures. The 7-time world champion jumped the Aston Martins of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso at the start to briefly run third, but thereafter he slid down the order, complaining at one point that even with his DRS open, he couldn't challenge the car ahead. And he said that even passing the 2 Aston Martins at the start hadn't given him much cause for optimism. "My guess is that the floor is not working," he said when asked about his DRS radio comment. "The floor is not sucking it down. So that pushed us to go to a higher wing, and then we're just massively draggy on the straights. And we're losing so much time on the straights, there's nothing I can do about it. And then we're just sliding through the corners. I knew that we'd have a difficult day because nothing changed in the car from yesterday to today, so I knew it'd be a tough one. Yesterday I just ate through the tires with an unexpected lack of pace, and then I think I drove better today in terms of making my stints, but we were just slow. So we have to look into why that is the case on this rough circuit." The underwhelming performance at the Brazilian Grand Prix has raised concerns about Mercedes' true grasp of its car's issues and whether the recent setbacks not only halt the team's positive stride towards the season's end, but also cast doubt on the extent of its progress. This reflection comes despite earlier signs of improvement, as Lewis Hamilton pointed out in Mexico, where he likened the team's advancements to the previous years, suggesting that while progress was evident, substantial changes were still necessary for a significant leap forward. The varying performances with the upgraded car, closer to Red Bull in Aston, a distant second in Mexico City, and outpaced by several teams in Interlagos, have provided a clearer view of Mercedes' actual progression, and despite the setbacks, Mercedes maintains that its car has improved, even though it exhibits a recurring imbalance with a rear that cannot match the front's pace. However, the true performance of the W14 by this season's end was not the only measure of success. The upgrade introduced in Aston had broader objectives that may still hold value for the team's future development. The Brazilian Grand Prix debacle for Mercedes is suspected to be due to a fundamental setup error, exacerbated by the reduced practice time available during sprint weekends, which didn't allow the team to diagnose and correct the issue in time. Despite the W14's challenging nature, it has shown signs of improvement, particularly in the management, historically a strong point for Mercedes as compared to other cars on the grid. However, at Interlagos, the car exhibited characteristics reminiscent of Ferrari's struggles in high tyre degradation scenarios, aggressively wearing out the rear tyres. There's speculation that the floor upgrade introduced in Aston might have unintended side effects, or perhaps an overcorrection in ride height to avoid the issues faced on the bumpy circuit of the Americas led to this poor performance, but the extent of the problem seemed to be beyond what could be mitigated by minor aerodynamic tweaks or driver adjustments, pointing to a more systemic issue within the car's setup. In response to this unexpected setback, intense technical debriefs are likely to occur at Mercedes' Brackley headquarters, and the aim will be to ensure that the team has not, like Aston Martin in the past, inadvertently introduced negative characteristics into its car that could derail its development path, particularly at such a critical stage in the season. It does indeed seem like Mercedes has been lacking cohesion for some time. The mixed messages from Toto Wolff on the one hand, criticizing the car's performance and apologizing for its inadequacies to Lewis Hamilton, and on the other telling Hamilton to just focus on driving, reflect a sense of confusion. This, along with the team's apparent hopping from one solution to another, points to underlying issues with data correlation and contributes to an image of a team that is not unified. And that is going to be a problem moving on in the future. While it might not seem that way because they are second in the constructor standings, but you'd expect a coherent plan and a unified message from a strong team. However, it seems that Mercedes is frequently changing strategies and tactics, a process that appears random in a way and lacks agreement between Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton. Despite their position as second, I feel this ranking comes in spite of rather than because of a coordinated team effort, and while they may operate effectively behind the scenes, their public displays of drama and admissions of many unsatisfactory weekends do not convey a sense of solid teamwork to the outside world. Mercedes have their work cut out for them, and they better act on it fast, because after finishing over a minute behind Verstappen in Brazil, Hamilton admitted it's becoming hard to believe Mercedes will have an answer for Red Bull in the near future, and to be completely honest, it's also hard to not agree with him. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Mercedes can bounce back from this race? Thanks for watching Racing Zone, and we will see you in the next video.